Stalker-heavy army, I think he would have been able to take that right there. And that's why I kind of question why he warped in 4 more Stalkers when the pylon warped in. So that's a bit curious to me. But now Day9 firmly in control of this game. He does have a lot of speedlings. He's going to run right by the main ramp. No, he's going to allow his brother to
Oh!
block it off. Oh, now his Zerglings are never going to get in there. Completely denied to get into the main base. So Tasteless recovering well from that, even though, I mean, he could have really allowed those speedlings in, but thankfully Day9 hesitated a little bit, so Tasteless now is going to throw up that expansion.
I don't know if you saw that, but those Mutalisks almost actually flew right by that pylon, so I'm not sure if Tasteless actually saw those or not, but I don't know what Tasteless can do against Mutalisks. Mutalisks are so good against Protoss if you can get them to where they don't have the anti-air they need. There are 4 sentries, not any stalkers though, so these probes may be dying here pretty quick.
Yeah, well, he does have warp gates, so he can definitely warp in more sentries if he needs to. The cooldown now almost coming off of cooldown mode. Now, if the sentries throw up that Guardian Shield, I think they'll be able to do just fine. But if Day9 micros efficiently, then he might be able to out-micro these Stalker, or these sentries. More sentries getting warped in right here for Tasteless, which is wise, and I think he's going to fend off this Mutalisk harass right now. And if Day9 doesn't do some crucial damage with these Mutalisks, then I think that the game is going to pretty much par out and even, because really you can't invest 600 minerals, 600 gas, and not do any kind of economic damage, which is he's doing pretty good right now, getting a couple of probes here and there, and the income tab showing, wow, Day9, 40 drones over 21 probes. That's a huge difference in economy.
This is always one of the least fun positions to be in as a Protoss player. Now, he is focusing down the Mutas fairly well. Oh, man, double the reinforcements, though, just showing up. So there we go. Tasteless got a GG. He tried to do a 4-gate attack there, and it didn't quite work out. I think that Day9 was more than amply prepared. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and go on to the next game, and we'll see you guys next time. And thanks for IRIP, our sponsor, once again. And so, yeah, let's go on to the next game.
I think we're gonna get the players in here to do a quick interview, right?
Oh, yes, you are correct. If we can add them to, I guess we have to conference call them. All right, so, okay, so that game was Zerg versus Protoss. Day9 was spawning as Zerg, and Tasteless was spawning as the Protoss. And one thing I want to ask you guys is, what is your strongest race? I'll let Sean go first, and then Tasteless can talk about it. I'm just curious in StarCraft 2, because most people know what you played in StarCraft 1, but they may not know for StarCraft 2.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Terran would be my strongest race. I like Terran versus Zerg a lot. I think Terran versus Protoss is probably my best matchup. But generally, it's my matchups that are better than the race. Like, I think my Protoss versus Zerg and Terran versus Protoss are my 2 best matchups.
Okay, cool. Nick, do you have anything to add on? What do you feel like your best race is in StarCraft 2?
I think same as Sean, where it's mostly the matchup, not just the race. For instance, actually, my Protoss versus Zerg is one of my least strong matchups. But yeah, I mean, look, I think it really just depends on the matchup, as well as the map, actually, too. So it's kind of tough to say.
Okay,
cool.
so yeah, we were
go
on the
ahead.
map Lost Temple. How do you guys feel about that map? I mean, we were kind of reminiscing about in the HDH where you threw down, if you guys recall, where you threw down the Robo Bay and then canceled it and went 4-gate. And this time it was a Stargate, and I was just yapping on like, oh, he wouldn't do that again. And then, so I guess this one's directed at you, Nick. So do you have a lot of success with like the canceling tech and then going 4-gate once you deny scouting, or because we've seen you do it twice now?
Well, you know, one thing about random versus random is if you get Protoss and you always make the pylon in your main, unless you see an Overlord right away. And normally fast expanding against Zerg is a little bit better, so your options aren't that many, I guess you could say. So what I tried to do there is I figured that if I made it look like I was going to rush to a Void Ray or maybe a Phoenix, it might force a different response from Sean. But I think one of the problems with my rush, I think he probably would have held it off anyways, but I should have force fielded on the Zerglings, not, I was trying to catch them so they get stuck behind the sunken colonies at one point, and that really messed stuff up. And I also should have stopped rushing sooner and backed off, because I could have made some zealots and expanded and still held off the mutas. So I basically overcommitted. But yeah, basically the strategy is that I try to make him respond in such a way that he'll end up with the wrong units and the wrong army composition when I attack.
Okay,
Right, and the thing about 4-gate is it's kind of tough to recover from if it does fail.
It can be tough.
I feel it's pretty good. I mean, you can always just
you
stop
just
making
back
units.
off. And, yeah, you just back off. what I did is I kept attacking, so I was losing too many units. I mean, there was a point where I was thinking, I don't know if this is going to work, but let me try 1 or 2 more times to go in there. And I know I kept sniping the sunken colony that just wouldn't die. So that was also part of the problem. So I don't know if it's impossible to recover from, but it definitely doesn't let me develop in a healthy way in the mid game and late game.
Right, because
But,
I
I
was
mean,
watching.
you
I was
can-
watching the harvester count, and just even before the Mutalisk struck, I think you were maybe down like a good 15, maybe 10 to 15 harvesters. So
Well,
that's
you
probably
stop
in
making-
accumulation with the fact that he fast expanded too.
No, well, what you do is you stop making probes at 16. You don't need to make more probes after that because you're not getting many more minerals. You only need 2 on each patch. So what you do is you just stop making probes so your rush is stronger, and then when you expand, you start making probes again. You have all this charge saved up.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a good tip. And we also, I mean, we saw it work. We saw it, you were talking about having Sean get the wrong units. And if you guys haven't seen that game in the HDH, yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but the attack definitely does. It goes a lot differently because Sean went a different tech instead of the kind of Zergling Muta, which we've seen a lot in PvZ lately. So, yeah, that was a pretty interesting game. And do you have any other questions, HD, or should we move on to the next?
I have a little bit to add to that.
Oh, yeah,
I
you
think
haven't actually
Sean-
said that much. We've been over here talking to Nick. So, yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Because one thing, Nick, you said you're trying to snipe the sunken colony. I did transfuse it like right before you
Okay.
did the final killing shots. I don't know if you saw that, but like I actually got another queen because I kind of believed your air tech. And then I suicide an overlord like just in time. But that's one thing about going for a warp gate rush is that you don't really need to be making units constantly out of your first gateway. So timing-wise, it doesn't slow you down to make a building, cancel it, and then make 3 warp gates, because the 3 warp gates will finish right when the warp gate finishes, regardless. So I think that that's like a good technique. If you decide you want a 4 warp gate rush, just to do that, make a building, and then cancel it. I mean, you can do it almost every single time and be okay. And also, I
Yeah,
think
he's totally right. Yeah.
yeah, and it's also like it's a little unfair to get random Zerg against random Protoss because again, I know Nick would make his pylon on the bottom of his ramp and do that like obnoxious 10 gate business, but again, he has to build it on top of his ramp, so it kind of cuts his options down. Whereas with Zerg, I mean, I can get away with early expanding pretty much really easily, whether I go for a 14 hatch or for like 14 pool, 16 hatch. And that's it. That's what I'm done.
All right, sweet. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. Once again, big thanks to our sponsor, IRIP, and for Sean and Nick for doing this for us. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next game.